The marble floors in the Sterling house were always cold, even in the middle of summer. I remember thinking that the house felt just like the man who owned it, big, impressive, and freezing. My name is Sarah, and I was the maid. I wasn't a nanny, though I ended up doing that job, too. Mr. Sterling was a very rich man. He ran a company that everyone knew, and he was always on his phone, pacing the hallway in his expensive suits, talking about millions of dollars. But he was poor in the only way that really mattered. He had 2 children, Leo, who was 7, and little Mia, who was 4. Their mother had passed away 2 years prior, and instead of holding his children close, Mr. Sterling buried himself in work. He hid behind his money. Every day was the same. The children would wake up, hoping to see their father before he left. They would stand by the tall front door, still in their pajamas. "Daddy, look," Leo would say, holding up a drawing of a spaceship. "Not now, Leo." "I'm late," Mr. Sterling would grumble, not even looking down as he checked his watch. He would walk right past them, get into his black car, and vanish. The house was filled with toys. The kids had the newest video games, a room full of dolls, and a backyard that looked like a park. But you cannot hug a video game. You cannot tell a secret to a plastic doll. The tears usually started around dinner time. That was the only time Mr. Sterling was home, sitting at the head of the long table. The silence was heavy. One rainy Tuesday, things got bad. Mia had scraped her knee earlier that day. It wasn't a big cut, but she wanted her dad. When she sat at the table, she started to sniffle. "Stop that noise," Mr. Sterling said, looking at his tablet. "Sarah, get her a tissue." I wiped Mia's nose, my heart aching for her. Then Leo spoke up. "Dad, I made the soccer team today." Mr. Sterling didn't look up. "That's nice. I'll pay the fees." "But the first game is Saturday," Leo said, his voice shaking. "Can you come?" "Saturday is a work day, Leo. Don't be ridiculous. Sarah will take you." Leo dropped his fork. His face turned red, and then the tears came. He didn't scream, he just cried silently, his little shoulders shaking. Mia saw her brother crying and started wailing loudly. Mr. Sterling slammed his hand on the table. The silver rattling against the wood made us all jump. "Enough!" he shouted. "I work 18 hours a day to pay for this food, this house, and these clothes. The least you can do is let me eat in peace. Why are you always crying? You have everything." The room went dead silent. The kids looked terrified. He stood up to leave, ready to retreat to his office like he always did. That was the moment I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I was just the maid. I risked losing my job, my income, everything. But looking at Leo's crushed face, I didn't care. "No, sir," I said. My voice was quiet, but it was steady. Mr. Sterling stopped and turned around slowly. He looked shocked that I had spoken to him without being asked. "Excuse me." "They don't have everything," I said, my hands trembling against my apron. "They have nothing." "How dare you?" he snapped. "Look at this room. Look at what I provide." I walked over to the trash bin in the corner of the dining room. Earlier that morning, I had seen him throw something away without looking at it. I reached in and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. I smoothed it out on the table in front of him. It was a drawing Leo had made. It showed a tall man in a suit holding hands with a little boy and girl. Underneath, In messy crayon, it said, "My hero." "He gave you this morning," I said. "You didn't even look at it. You threw it away." Mr. Sterling stared at the paper. "And Mia," I continued, pointing to the little girl who was trying to hold back her sobs. "She doesn't cry because she's ungrateful. She cries because every time she looks at you, she sees the only parent she has left, and you look at her like she's a mistake." The room was so quiet you could hear the rain hitting the windows. "I can cook their meals, Mr. Sterling. I can wash their clothes. I can drive them to soccer and put bandages on their knees," I said, tears stinging my own eyes now. "But I cannot be their father. I am paid to clean your house, sir. I am not paid to love your children because you are too busy to do it." I took a deep breath. "If you want to fire me, you can do it. But please, look at them. Just look at them." Mr. Sterling stood frozen. His face was pale. He looked from the crumpled drawing to me, and then, finally, he looked at his children. Really looked at them. He saw Leo wiping his eyes with his sleeve. He saw Mia clutching her fork like a lifeline. He saw the fear in their eyes. Fear of him. The anger drained out of his face, leaving him looking old and tired. He slumped back down into his chair. He picked up the drawing with shaking hands. He traced the words "my hero" with his thumb. A single tear rolled down the rich man's cheek. It was the first time I had ever seen him look human. He didn't say a word to me. He pushed his chair back and fell to his knees on the hard floor. He opened his arms. "Leo. Mia." His voice cracked. "Come here." They hesitated. They were used to being pushed away. But then, seeing him on his knees, seeing him crying, they ran. They crashed into him, burying their faces in his expensive suit. Mr. Sterling held them so tight I thought he might never let go. He buried his face in Leo's neck and sobbed. "I'm sorry," he kept saying over and over. "I'm so sorry. I'm here. I'm here." I quietly picked up the dinner plates and walked into the kitchen, closing the door behind me to give them their moment. I leaned against the counter and let out a long breath. The house was still big. The floors were still cold marble. But for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel empty anymore.